page, as well as the Daily Mail, has got, why is Keir Starmer still sucking up to the Chinese? They're wondering what on earth is going on, because he sort of defended fostering closer ties with China, despite being told that Beijing has got thousands of agents who could emulate the spy who befriended Prince Andrew. We should call him the alleged spy, because nothing's been proven. Peter Bleksley, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Governor.
Is Britain awash with Chinese spies, do you think?
Apparently so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, would you?
Tens of thousands of them, by all accounts.
Well, I mean, we know, for example, that the Chinese influence in universities and in places of higher education is massive, because they put loads and loads of money into researches, they put loads of money into what they call chairs at these places, which is basically them buying, you know, university influence. And there's lots and lots of Chinese students here, some of whom may not have the best interests of Britain at heart.
And they pay huge fees to attend these universities.
Yes.
So the universities, of course, throw their doors open to them.
Very happy.
They charge multiples of what they charge, you know, British students to go.
And there's an awful lot of Chinese developing going on in terms of Chinese property ownership, Chinese, you know, houses being built, you know, whole, you know, kind of high-rises being built, certainly in London. You know, if you're seeing occupancy rates going up in places like, you know, very expensive blocks of flats, you could be bloody sure that an awful lot of Qataris, Chinese and Russians are buying stuff.
And they're hoovering them up, so many of these properties. Right. And a lot of them people are complaining about because they're sitting there empty.
Yes.
But they've been bought by people with foreign interests.
Right, because there's an investment, right?
Yeah,
or maybe just to bury some money somewhere.
Who knows? But and here we have the security services saying to the government, tens of thousands of potential Chinese spies in this country, designate it as being hostile, because that's what it is. And Keir Stalin, no, what's his name? Keir Starmer, that's it. Keir Starmer.
Yeah, the farmer harmer, that's the way to remember it.
He's sitting on his hands and refusing to do this because, of course, he wants growth. Yeah. And he thinks that a closer relationship with China will establish that.
Yes. Well, let's see what he had to say for himself. He was in Parliament yesterday, questioned about this.
We are concerned about the challenge that China poses. Our approach, as you know, I had a meeting with the President just a few weeks ago now. Our approach is one of engagement, of cooperating where we need to cooperate, particularly, for example, on issues like climate change, to challenge where we must and where we should, particularly on issues like human rights, and to compete when it comes to trade.
He's taken to standing in front of random flags now, I see. He wasn't obviously in Parliament there yesterday. He was actually still in Norway, where he was seeing the Norwegian Prime Minister, who's a man, as I described him yesterday, who's even more insignificant than Keir Starmer. They were sort of signing up to some kind of joint efficiency drive for green energy, and there's a great sketch in the Times today by Tom Peck, who talks about this kind of brotherly love thing that was going on. The two men took a boat out to a little island in the Bay of Vegan. Here in this magical place where carbon is plucked from the air and buried deep in the earth, they stripped down to their shirt sleeves and placed a loving hand on one another's shoulders. I mean, it's quite sickening stuff, this.
I mean, as if we haven't got more pressing matters,
you would think,
that need to be dealt with.
Yeah.
I think Starmer, it must be the Prime Minister who has spent the least amount of time in his country since being elected.
Right.
He's always flying.
Somebody actually put a meme out yesterday. It was a picture of Starmer, and it said, you know, breaking news, Starmer planned to visit Britain. You know, because, I mean, you might as well call it that, because he's hardly ever here, is he?
No, absolutely.
I mean, he sort of pops back for Prime Minister's questions. I'm not even sure if we've got that this week, but if he comes back in time for that, fine. But I didn't listen. I listened to that. Should we have another listen to that, actually, that Starmer clip? Because he has the amazing ability to speak without having any kind of effect on you as to what he's saying. Yeah. If you asked me what he just said, I'd say, I don't know. Let's have another go.
We are concerned about the challenge that China poses. Our approach, as you know, I had a meeting with the President just a few weeks ago now. Our approach is one of engagement, of cooperating where we need to cooperate, particularly, for example, on issues like climate change, to challenge where we must and where we should, particularly on issues like human rights, and to compete when it comes to trade.
No, still nothing.
Blah,
blah, blah, blah, yeah.
Blah.
I just literally, none of the words are resonating with me as actual words. It's just a kind of noise, isn't it?
We are concerned we will challenge. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think the Mail have got it right. Why is Starmer still sucking up to the Chinese? I mean, that's about the size of it, isn't it?
That's their banner headline.
Now, guess where he's going? That's where he's going today.
Go on.
He's not coming home yet. Yeah, he's still on his travels. He's going to Estonia today.
Is he?
Yeah, and he's going to meet with somebody called Tavi Madiberk, a well-known leader of
Who's
industry.
he play for?
Yeah, I think he used to play for, what was it, Anderlecht. Founder of Frankenberg Technologies.
Right.
I don't know.
Frankenstein Technologies.
He's attending the JEF Summit, the Jeff Summit. Jeff Summit. All right. It's a joke, isn't it? What's he doing?
Dear,
I mean, meanwhile, right, according to the Financial Times, that paper of record, hiring in this country has reached an all-time low. Thanks to Rachel Reeves' increase in business taxes, companies have now cut back on hiring, adding to warnings that the budget has sapped corporate confidence.
Yes.
It has fallen to the lowest level, not counting the pandemic, since 2009.
Yep.
So
and
basically no jobs.
Alex Veitch, who has the role of Director of Policy at the British Chamber of Commerce. So I tend to suspect Mr. Veitch knows a thing or two about business.
Yeah, is he an economist?
And an economy and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
He says that businesses have been left scratching their heads to see how growth will be possible in the face of rising costs. And those costs were imposed by Rachel Reeves at her budget.
Yes.
So there you go, Labour.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, more and more people, funnily enough, there was an interesting piece in the newspaper today as well about Rachel Reeves, about how she came into power as this kind of, breath of fresh air. She was going to be completely different to the way the Tories had run the economy. She was going to be very, very similar to Gordon Brown, highly respected, former Bank of England employee. And she's completely crashed it and ruined it because her reputation now is down the gurgler. And she's now not even thought of as a sort of successor to Sir Keir Starmer. She's behind Wes Streeting now.
Yeah, well, because, let's face it, this budget and the national insurance costs that she's increased are going to cost, they believe, and the figures today, 125,000 jobs.
Yeah.
Now, how on earth is that going to help with Starmer's quest for growth?
It's really not, is it?
It really isn't.
And also, let's not forget, it was only, a week ago Thursday that they relaunched it all.
Yeah.
And we've all forgotten about that, because that didn't go very well either, did it?
With a reset, there wasn't a reset.
It wasn't a reset.
It wasn't a reset.
No, it wasn't a reset.
Don't dare call it a reset.
Yeah. But according to the Sun newspaper, those 125,000 jobs which are going to be wiped out is the equivalent of wiping out Blackburn's population.
Yeah.
That's how big that number is, right?
Yeah.
And Kerry Badenoch's been talking about it, not just in terms of farms, which are threatened with this inheritance tax, but also small businesses, right? Because small businesses tend to run the same way, where they get handed from one generation to another, don't they?
The lifeblood of the economy.
Yes.
We are always told. Nation of shopkeepers.
Yeah.
It is those small businesses.
Yeah.
Those small and medium-sized businesses, which are usually established by entrepreneurial, courageous men and women who go out on their own, quite possibly borrow to start up the business.
Sometimes even mortgage their own house.
Fuel the economy, create masses of employment. Yeah. Because they might just employ one or two people, but when you multiply that by the vast number of these types of businesses in the UK, the very, very lifeblood of the economy. Yeah. And now, with punitive rises in national insurance costs, for every soul they employ, they're going to cut back.
And this is what people are saying about Rachel Reeves. They really did think that she was going to be a breath of fresh air. They presumed that everything that she was going to do had been thought through, had been costed. They remember when they kept saying, it's all been thoroughly costed, we're not going to do anything that wasn't costed. Well, they haven't even run, it doesn't seem they've even run an abacus over any of it, because it's a complete disaster.
Yeah, indeed. A huge, huge error.
Yeah.
And the impact upon it is huge. And then, of course, for Starmer to keep banging on about growth, well, where's it going to come from? And what have we had for the last 2 months?
Yeah.
A shrinking economy. Yeah. So if we get the figures in January for December and the economy has shrunk, if it has, we will officially be in a recession.
We will officially be in a recession, which will not be very helpful. Pages and pages and pages on Prince Andrew. Remember, we'll come back to revisit that. But I want to talk about Nigel Farage, because he hit out yesterday at two-tier justice. We've got two-tier Keir, we've got two-tier justice. You might remember Victoria Thomas Bowen, the 25-year-old OnlyFans model, who chucked a milkshake over Nigel Farage outside a pub in Clacton back in July when the campaigning was all going on. And, of course, she's managed to avoid jail, wouldn't you know it?
Victoria Thomas Bowen, I think you're a revolting young woman. Absolutely revolting. Whether you love or loathe Nigel Farage, he is a politician. He was running for Parliament. He was campaigning out on the street, meeting potential constituents, trying to spread his word and get himself elected.
Yeah.
And this vile piece of work decides to throw a milkshake over him, wrecking his suit. And you imagine that first couple of seconds...
You don't know what it is,
when
do you?
something's thrown over you. You know, I got stabbed in the neck once, and those first couple of seconds where you really don't know how badly you were injured, you know, are terrifying.
Yes.
And have stayed with me.
I'm sure.
You know, I've got over it, but I still remember that moment very, very clear, because you just don't know how badly am I injured.
It's the shock, isn't it?
It is.
Which is why when we always look back at that incident with John Prescott, when he punched the guy, because he talked about it often later, he said he got hit on the neck from very short range by an egg. He didn't know what it was. It could have been anything. It could have been a bullet, you know, it could have been, you know, a rock, it could have been anything that was, it could have been blood coming out of him. He didn't know. So his instinct was to punch the guy. Quite rightly.
Absolutely. So she goes to court yesterday and she gets what we used to call in policing terms a bender.
Yes.
Which is a suspended sentence.
Yes.
As opposed to being sent to jail.
Right.
Which I think Mr Farage would have preferred. And to be quite honest with you, I'd have been happy to see her doing a bit of time behind bars.
Well, I mean, the comparisons are obviously being made with the people who were thrown in prison unceremonially for various different things that they did, not all of which were violent or dangerous, in the summer riots.
Yes, during the rioting. Well, she's got to do 120 hours of community work. Now, bearing in mind that...
Let's hope she's not going to do it on OnlyFans.
Oh, Struth, spare me the thought, it's a bit early.
It is.
And I think that 120 hours, bearing in mind that she created litter as she threw that, because the cup, the straw, you know, all that kind of stuff, I would like to see her in a high-vis with a litter picker for every second of those 120 hours, trawling the streets, the parks, the woods, wheresoever it may be, cleaning up, filling black sack after black sack. But I fear, because of a story we heard about last week, where some community sentences are going to be done online.
Online from home, well, she knows a bit about that.
Yeah, she certainly does. She might be sat at home with a cup of tea and a biscuit, doing community service on her laptop.
According to a witness who saw what happened on the day, she shouted, "You effing C," to him, and has shown since then not one sign of remorse, and she does not regret her actions.
She's a real charmer,
isn't she just?
Wouldn't you be so proud if you fathered a piece of garbage like that? Oh,
absolutely ridiculous. And also, I have to say, because of the punishment handed out, this would not discourage any other bozo from doing it, would it? Because they'll go, oh well, you don't get to go to jail. You just have a, you know, you get your name in the paper and you get a bit of a suspended sentence.
Has that judge not heard about the tragic cases of Joe Cox and to David Amis, where we've had politicians murdered on our streets? There needs to be deterrence handed down. We have crime escalating like you wouldn't believe, virtually across the board in all types of crime. We have a blatant attack like this on a man who is now a member of Parliament and was campaigning to be so at that time, and she doesn't go to jail.
Shocking. Say no more.